Hello and welcome to a new week of meals. I'm starting off with some bratwurst that I'm cooking in the air fryer. These are bacon cheddar ones that I got on clearance for $2 for I think 5 or 6 links. Just served it up here with some mayo, kind of an aioli. I added some barbecue sauce and mustard and a bagged salad from Aldi. That's the sweet kale salad, and some Annie's mac and cheese. Next up is an open-faced Philly cheesesteak sloppy joe sandwich. It's a mouthful, it's a combo of different things, but it's basically a Philly cheesesteak sandwich, sloppy joe style, and I served it open-faced. So I'm starting off with some onion and some bell peppers. You can use any color that you like. Sauteing that in a bit of extra virgin olive oil. I wanted to get this really cooked down as much as I could because I know Colin doesn't really like veggies a whole lot, so the more they're cooked down into the dish, the more he's more apt to eat it. Seasoning with salt, just gonna get that a little bit of flavor here, and then we're gonna just keep cooking that again until it cooks down a little bit more. Didn't put a lid on this because I really wanted to get a bit of color on it. So you can see as I'm kind of stirring it around, there are some sort of caramelized browned bits, and that's kind of what I wanted. So I'm making a space here in the middle to make room for the ground beef. This is half of one of those big chubs of ground beef, 80-20. So this is probably about 1.5 pounds of ground beef. Going to cook that up until it's pretty much fully browned, and I'm also going to season as I go. I like to season as I go, just each layer. Got some pepper as well, just mixing everything together until the ground beef is fully cooked. Going in with the Worcestershire sauce to make it that sort of Philly cheesesteak flavor. I am just eyeballing this. I do not have a recipe for this, unfortunately. I've also got a bit of ketchup. I do remember seeing something on Pinterest a while back that was kind of like a Philly cheesesteak sloppy joe. So I think I'll link something similar down below, and you can just take it for reference or inspiration. I'm doing a little taste test here because that's how I do. I want to make sure that it's got enough of what it needs, and then when it's all said and done, I'm going to pop a lid and move on to the bread. I've got some bread from Aldi. It's like Italian style bread, and some provolone cheese. So you can see I'm just doing, what I'm going to do is one regular sandwich, and then the other two are going to be open-faced for me and Rob. Colin wanted a regular sandwich, so I'm doing his first here, scooping a big spoonful of the meat mixture, and then I'm going to put some meat on the other two open-faced style sandwiches. I'm adding the provolone cheese here. I've got 2 slices to add to Colin's, 2 slices for each of these actually, and then those are going to go under the broiler until the cheese is melted. Basically everything's cooked, so I just want to warm it through to melt the cheese. There you go. I'm going to set it on a high broil, and this is what you get when it's done. You can see the bread right there is toasty. That's Colin's. So I just flip that over, and that's his, ready to serve. The other two, again, are open-faced style sandwiches. So this is what this looks like here. The cheese is nice and melty and gooey. a little bit brown on the top. I kind of like the look of that. So this was really delicious, I have to say. And the bread, I never had this bread before. It was really good. I liked it. It had good flavor and that nice sort of European crusty outside. Served it with some watermelon here, and that was a very simple meal for the next night of the week. Next up, I am making a meatloaf. I bought this package of meat. It's 2 pounds of meat. It's part beef and part pork, so it was already pre-mixed. And then I'm going to add some sweet relish to this. That's all I had left, and so I just wanted to use that. I do like it a little bit sweet. I've got some salt and pepper here, and then I'm going to add some additional flavors to this. We've got a garlic powder and onion powder. You can add some minced or diced up onion, that would help. I like having the pork in the mixture because it adds a little bit of moisture to it, a little more fat, so it's not so dry and so dense. I've got an egg here, if I didn't already mention salt and pepper, and then I'm going to mix that through. Try not to overwork your meat. I read somewhere or saw somewhere that if you overwork the meat, it can get kind of like really dense. So I saw that you're supposed to use this like claw technique so that you don't really overwork all of the surface of the meat. In any case, you just want to kind of do it until everything is mixed, just mixed through. And I'm doing something weird here. Yes, I'm smelling the meat. I have asked this before to see if anyone else smells their food, to see if it needs more seasoning, which is so funny because I'm adding more salt here, and salt doesn't really smell like anything. So I'm not really sure what, prompts me to add additional seasonings like salt by smelling it, but I don't know, it's just a thing I do. I add some ketchup here for moisture and flavor. Again, I'm doing the smelling thing. So strange, I know, but I know I'm not the only one because people have commented that they do that as well. I'm also adding some shredded cheese. This is something, I guess this is kind of more of like a Filipino style meatloaf recipe. We kind of do this where we add some cheese to it, and then a little bit later I'm going to add another ingredient that is totally out of the box, out of the realm of your traditional meatloaves, but I'm adding that cheese. I'm adding a layer of foil down on the baking sheet, and there's that secret ingredient. Hard-boiled eggs. That's right. So I put the foil down so that it would be a little bit easier to clean this whole thing. I'm going to take about a half to 2/3 of the meat mixture. I'm going to shape it into a loaf and then press it down. And then I'm going to put the eggs in the middle and sandwich it with another layer of the meat. Here you go. I'm grabbing the eggs. I'm just going to kind of place them initially to make sure they fit properly, and if I need to adjust the shape of the meat loaf, I can do that. So I've got the 3 eggs. Again, you can omit this step. You don't need to add hard-boiled eggs if you're not a fan. And then I'm just making little divots so that they go in a little bit deeper to the bottom part of the meatloaf. Got the top layer of meat now here, so I'm just going to make sure that the eggs are fully covered. I'm going to kind of close up all the seams and little gaps and holes and things like that. So that is pretty much ready to go after I'm done doing this. So just reshape it, make sure that there are no spaces and things like that. But that's pretty much the meatloaf. I guess you could kind of say, again, Filipino style. Although come to think of it, it is also like a giant Scotch egg. I did add some chunked up zucchini around the meatloaf. I'm going to cook at the same time on 375. And then in the meantime, while that is cooking, I am making a coleslaw to go on the side. The zucchini was not enough for everybody. It was basically enough for just me because it kind of shrinks down. So I had some zucchini and some coleslaw, and then we just have the coleslaw here for the guys. So I'm making the dressing for the coleslaw. We've got some mayo, some apple cider vinegar. I'm using monk fruit sweetener. You can use sugar. I have some pepper And I think that's about it. You can add a little bit of salt if you like, but I don't think it needs it with the apple cider vinegar. So I'm mixing that up. I'm going to do a little taste test to see how I like the flavor. You can just adjust as needed. And then we're just going to mix that together with the coleslaw mix. That is ready to go, ready to mix up. So I'm just going to pour that over the entire thing and use a pair of, or a set of tongs, and I'm just going to toss that and set it aside until we're ready to serve. Taste test. And here is the meatloaf out of the oven. You can see the zucchini is really shrunk in size. Again, just enough for one person at this point. I didn't season it before I put it in the oven, but the juices from the meatloaf ran out and really flavored it, so it was really, really perfect. Here's the meatloaf sliced into. You'll see that nice little surprise of the egg as I cut into this. Using the beef and pork mixture, again, that pork adds a lot of fat and moisture to this, so it was really perfect. I cooked this for probably about anywhere between 45 to an hour, just depending on the size of the meatloaf. So you'll just have to adjust as needed. So that is my meatloaf, Filipino style, served with coleslaw and a side of zucchini. Really, really yummy and comforting. Last up, we are doing some breakfast for dinner. I've got some Polska Kielbasa here, and I'm just browning this off in a pan. These are already fully cooked, so I'm just browning it to my liking. You should do the same. And once that's all browned and the way I like it, I'm just going to take that off the stove and I'm going to reuse the pan to cook the rest of the dinner. I'm going to be cooking some eggs here, so if you like a clean pan, start with a fresh one. Add a little bit more oil and some cherry tomatoes, or actually these are grape tomatoes that I wanted to use up. So I'm going to cook these down. You can see a lot of steam here because they were a little bit wet, so water and oil, just be careful if you do something like that. Otherwise, dry your tomatoes so they don't spatter. I'm going to cook these down until they get kind of blistered. They will, because of the heat and the pressure inside of these tomatoes, they will start to burst. So just be careful and watch for that. I end up using a splatter guard just to make sure that, I don't get splattered with tomato guts. But you'll see here, I'll put that on in a second, and then I will cook that down until they become kind of wrinkled and blistered and they have burst a little bit, so some of the juices come out of the tomatoes. Makes it really, really nice and sweet. I just love cooking tomatoes like this. If you don't like the idea of the whole splattering, bursting tomatoes thing, you can also cook these in the oven and kind of roast them. The other thing you can do is either pierce a hole in each of them so that the juices come out, or slice them in half and use them that way. I'm making a little space in here to add a little bit of the egg, well actually all of the egg. This is 5 eggs that I'm using, and I'm going to basically scramble this. Again, if you like a fresh pan, you don't like all those little bits, burned bits at the bottom, use a fresh pan. So I'm just going to cook these gently on like a medium-low heat until the eggs are cooked through. You can season the eggs if you like. I didn't because, again, I really like just the flavors of the food. It's just my personal preference. You do you. So if you want to add salt and pepper or onion, whatever you want to do, you can do that. Oh, the other thing I did add, however, was pepper. I added pepper to the eggs before I scrambled them. This is some feta cheese. Again, another reason I did not season the eggs was because we've got feta on top. Lots of flavor here. And then I'm adding some little snippets of green onion. And again, that is basically the dinner done. We've got the Polska Kielbasa served there on the other side with the scrambled eggs with feta and those lovely sweet grape tomatoes and some onions here. Gonna serve that with a side of rice. And that is our dinner for the end of the week. I hope you guys enjoyed. It was a really simple week. I noticed that, there's a theme here with the way I cook. Minimal ingredients. I like to keep things simple and fast because, let's face it, I'm tired. I get lazy and I just want to have dinner on the table that's going to be yummy. So there you go. Thank you so much for stopping by and spending time with me for this week's meals. I will see you in the next video. Take care until then.